Go ahead and start the meeting. I'm Victoria Compton, the Director of the San Juan County Economic Development Council. Thank you so much for coming today. And we have Jenn Rogers from Congressman Larsen's office on the phone today, and he'll be joining us in a couple of minutes. And I'd like us to say a big thank you to them for joining us today. A quick little public service announcement about the Economic Development Council, the EDC. We exist solely to serve businesses in San Juan County. So whatever your business needs, if you need advice, if you need a connection to a bank or any other service of benefit to your business, just let us know, because that's what we are here for and that's what we live for. And we're happy to help you with whatever you need. So without much are you guys ready? Oops, looks like we've lost Jenn. So I will take this opportunity to tell you about what the EDC is doing in terms of programs for businesses. Right now, we've got this weekly phone call where we bring leaders and experts in for an hour to talk about programs and concepts of benefit to your business, or also news from DC or Olympia. We also have a twice weekly program that we call the EDC's Chat and Chew, which is a casual conversation, bringing in experts to talk about all kinds of things. This week we had cash flow yesterday. Tomorrow I'll be leading a discussion on marketing. We also have all kinds of resources on our website, www.sanjuansedc.org. Also, if you check our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/San Juan's EDC, we've got all kinds of resources there, and we update that 3 to 5 times a day with all the news that's coming out for businesses currently. And I would like to remind you that if you have questions for Congressman Larsen, be sure to put them in the chat box, and then we will be able to get to them. During the chat period or during the question period, I will unmute you if you've asked a question. So I'll say your name, read your question out loud, then say your name again. So if you've asked a question, prepare to talk a little bit about it in case there's further discussion that comes from your question. So thank you, and I'm going to see if Congressman Larsen has joined us. It looks like Jenn. Jenn, are you there?
Yes, this is Jenn. Congressman Larsen is on, and he's got his video on.
Fantastic.
So he's ready to go.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Congressman Larsen, so much for joining us today. We're really excited to hear everything that's happening in Olympia and beyond, or sorry, DC and beyond. So we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Hope it sounds all right. I'm in my condo unit in Everett, Washington today. Coming to you live from one more corner of the condo. I'm experimenting with my my corners of my condominium unit to see where the better backgrounds are. This piece of art actually we purchased at the one of the galleries on Spring Street in Friday Harbor a few years back, and it's a local artist. I thought it was appropriate to sit in this corner for this call. It's actually 2 pieces of art. So just a little local flavor for you. And I wanted to start there because that gallery is a local business and probably suffering as much as anyone else up there on San Juan Island because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So as Victoria said, I don't know if I'll talk about DC and beyond. Maybe I'll talk about DC and every point in between DC and here, or like to think about it that way, because this is a pandemic that has hit all parts of the country, large cities and small cities, isolated areas, crowded areas, and of course that includes our state and my district, and includes San Juan County and the San Juan Islands as well. It's kind of hard to say that we're all in this together, although that's what we do say, that we all are in this together. And I can assure you that it's not I don't mean this as a positive, but San Juans are hit as hard as anyone else in any other area that I represent throughout the district. It really is hitting some areas equally hard. we are seeing some disparity, especially when it comes to the digital divide in education, where some kids have access to, say, the Chromebooks, but they don't have access to Wi-Fi in order to upload and download assignments. We see some disparity in how it's hitting people of color. 31% of the positive cases in our state are Hispanics, but Hispanics represent about 10% of the total population in our state. So there are we can really point to some clear disparities in how the pandemic's hitting, and that's sort of a broader brush look at how the pandemic hits. But coming more locally from the economic perspective, I think last week there were 500 or so more unemployment claims made from San Juan County folks, bringing the total to about 2,157 or so. I think Victoria is tracking that number. In a prep call yesterday, Victoria, you told me that calculates to an unemployment rate of about 27%. Today's Wednesday, and on Thursday we'll get national unemployment claim numbers. We'll be able to make an assessment about the unemployment rate, but you could hear an unemployment rate nationally of somewhere from 16 to 18% nationally, directly as a result of COVID-19. So what are we doing about that? And that's kind of the purpose of the call. So there's a couple of things that we've done as part of the CARES 1.0 and CARES 1.5 Act that we passed about, maybe last week. I forget when I last flew back to DC. It was recently, but the calendar days all kind of run together sometimes. But a couple of things I want to highlight in the CARES Act. One is this Payment Protection Program. So that's the PPP. In our state, there have been nearly 81,000 PPP loans done through local lenders for a total of about $12 billion with a B, $12 billion. Some of those have been, that's an average of about $149,000 per loan. I've talked to a business in Stanwood, Washington that got a loan for $25,000. There's a business on San Juan Island, and they got a loan for around $160,000. And there's a family-owned shellfish company in our state that got a $6.4 million loan, because they actually work internationally as well. Pretty major, but family-owned and definitely a small business. So there's a range of types of businesses and amounts of loans that have gone through the PPP. There is still, because we put additional money in, there's still about $130 billion available through the PPP program nationally. So, folks should, if you're interested, continue to work that process directly with your lender. Is the way to approach that. Another thing that we've done was the economic impact payments. These are the $1,200 and the $2,400 checks. If you haven't received yours yet, it's a great time on this call. Jen is taking notes, and we can figure out what's going on. If you're owed a economic impact payment, but when we do the next CARES Act, I think we may add money to that economic impact payment, because we're getting a much better idea of how deep and fast this recession is. Putting some numbers on it. There's another program called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I won't talk too much about it. It hasn't gone well, and we're trying to fix that. We're trying to get the SBA to answer questions about why it isn't going well, why they can't move faster on it. Just if you have questions about it, pass them on. I don't have any answers for you. I can't get answers, and I don't want to give you too much speculation without actual answers. I'm just looking at my notes here to be sure I'm covering some things. One of the things that we're finding out now that May is here, is the impact that the pandemic has had on local budgets. So where I live in Everett, they cut $10 million out of their 2020 budget, and this was after being 3.5 months into their 2020 budget. So that they didn't cut 10 million out of 12 months. They had to cut 10 million out of whatever the difference is, 8.5 months. And then they were still planning to make cuts in 2021, which they haven't addressed yet. And that's happening all over the district I represent. It's certainly happening in San Juan County. Having said that, the CARES 1.0 package included money for state and local governments, and San Juan County did receive close to $1 million, San Juan County government, close to $1 million for COVID-related costs. So your county council members are sorting through that now. But the governor announced yesterday that the state is looking at a $6.6 billion revenue shortfall based on projections and the baseline of this year's budget over the next 3 years. So we are probably going to address state and local government funding again in the next CARES package when we get back into session. I'll just conclude perhaps with a couple of things I've been focused on. Well, one thing I've been focused on, I was at Food Lifeline in South Seattle yesterday, or 2 days ago, with the National Guard and the Food Lifeline folks to help pack food boxes that are being delivered to food banks around the state. Mainly for Food Lifeline, they do north of Seattle. So on Friday, I'll be at the Bellingham Food Bank to help with distributing some of those food boxes to folks, and we're seeing a huge demand at our food banks as a result of the recession that the pandemic caused. And so that's one thing that my office in particular has been focused on, trying to be sure that that pipeline of food continues, that there's food in that pipeline, and it gets out to folks. I'll just conclude by saying the number one thing that really need to do is testing. We are nationally well short on the number of tests that we need to conduct. But we are trying to get the necessary personal protective equipment for our healthcare and hospital workers, for our first responders, and for those who are conducting the tests. And the number one hurdle to testing are these swabs, the cotton swabs that a healthcare professional sticks up your nose to take a sample. That's the number one hurdle. We don't have enough swabs, and it can't do the test without the swabs. It's 50 cents a piece, and for some reason, we can't get enough, and we are trying to push the administration, the Trump administration, to use the Defense Production Act essentially to commandeer manufacturing to manufacture these swabs so that we can expand the number of tests done not only in our state, but nationally. The testing will be followed by contact tracing, that is tracing the contacts of people who are positive, and then trying to focus on isolating those folks who are definitely COVID-19 positive, so that the rest of us can wear our masks and stay 6 feet away from each other at the grocery store and get on with as close to normal as we can until we get through the other side of COVID-19. So with that, Victoria, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oop, just had to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Congressman Larsen. I'm going to open it up to some questions. We've got a few that are more state-oriented, having to do with the stay-at-home order and the phasing model that the governor has presented. But if maybe you can
answer, I'll try to answer anything.
Okay, thank you. So we have Thomas Rausch on the phone, Terry Rausch rather, and she's going to ask a question about, with the ban on travel, does the travel in San Juan County have to be no new cases in San Juan County for the ban to be lifted? Are there other criteria? Because the availability of access to a medical facility will not change before then. And also a second question from Terry Rausch, with non-essential travel until mid-June, what do you each think of that? We've seen a lot of new people on Lopez, presumably going to their second home and bringing friends. Wondering why it's okay for that to happen, yet not okay for tourists to come. I know that this is a touchy issue, but I'm getting concerned that the impact on our economics is only going to get dire. So with that, John or Mickey, can you unmute Terry Rausch, because I am not currently able to do that for some reason.
She's good. Go ahead to Terry. You're muted again. You were unmuted a moment ago, Terry.
Here we go.
Yeah. Victoria, maybe rather than preview the questions, just kind of let folks ask.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, there you are. I heard a voice.
That's me. So did you want me to, so I sit on the board of Chimera Gallery on Lopez Island, and I put it out to the board to ask questions, and two of our board members wrote back, and so I am relaying those questions to you.
Okay.
And
Good.
there, you know, we had to close our gallery, and so we're being really creative as we are, and we're going to do an online store right now with just try and work things that way and understand that this is really serious, and we don't want people coming into the gallery and infecting, so we're really working hard to abide by all the standards that are needed.
Yeah.
But we do see a lot of people coming to Lopez, and my husband in fact works at Sunset Hardware, and it's like summertime there, and people are coming in without masks, and with the second question, it was, we're seeing a lot of people on Lopez that aren't locals that are coming up for their second home. And so I'm just curious, or one of our board members is very curious about that. And then just about the ban on coming to San Juan County. Do there have to be no new cases, or how are we going to work that?
Yeah, thanks. Those are two good questions for your San Juan County Council members. I'm sure Jamie Stevens would love to answer this question at some point. Not to put it too much on Jamie, but or Rick or Bill, but they passed the council passed that resolution, and they'll need to determine how they're going to seek to enforce that. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to do, but that's something that has to, I think, stick with the San Juan County Council. The broader issue of folks coming to the island and shopping and so on, I think that at least under the governor's stay home, stay healthy order, now we're in phase one, it doesn't prohibit people from going to the store, so on, but it's certainly, they ought to be wearing masks. And stores themselves can, the local Safeway where we shop in Everett, they only allow half occupancy. They have tape outside every 6 feet, so you stand on your spot and wait your turn to go into the store. Some stores are requiring one-way aisles as well. So the owner of any one store, grocery store, can make their own changes and enforce that at their own store. And probably in the interest of social distancing guidelines and public health, not being a public health professional or a law enforcement officer, I would just say as a citizen and a taxpayer, I'd feel much more comfortable wearing a mask and being 6 feet apart from people in a grocery store, and would hope that the stores could do that themselves. But we just started phase one yesterday of the reopening. Each phase will be 3 weeks. So sometime at the end of May, there'll be a reassessment of phase one to see if we move to phase two. I will note the governor's order on this phases allows 10 specific counties to apply to accelerate based on their specific conditions. And San Juan County might be, it's not one of those listed, but any county can try to get into that queue. And San Juan County might be, based on the particular circumstances there, might be one of those that could be in a position to apply to accelerate the reopening. But that's going to be a county council and a state Department of Health decision.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Laura Saccio, and Anna Maria has the same question, but I'm going to, Laura, you've asked it first, so I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Hi, thanks for speaking with us today, Congressman Larsen.
Sure, Laura.
So one of the challenges that we're facing, we actually were lucky enough to get PPP loans. I own 2 hotels here in the San Juan Island. And with the stay-at-home orders and then the phasing that I was listening to our county council meeting about the possible reopening and even perhaps applying for accelerating the process to be one of those counties. And there's some question about that in my understanding. But we're looking at, possibly not even being able to open our doors until July, at this rate. And so that 8-week limitation on the forgiveness, basically it puts us into a loan where we start having to pay in 6 months at a pretty accelerated pace. And we just simply won't have the funds to be able to do that. I wondered if there's any discussion about that.
Yeah. So 2 things to keep in mind on that. First off, this is a question that's popping up all over the country. I was on a call yesterday with the Democratic Party leadership in DC, and a representative from New Mexico brought up this specific question. To bring it closer to home, on Sunday, I was talking to Helen Price Johnson, who's a county commissioner in Island County, just south of you, and she brought it up. So this is a question that is moving as quickly as the pandemic across the country. But keep in mind, and we're going to clarify this, keep in mind the PPP program requires you to have the people on payroll by June 30th. Doesn't require you to be working. Now you got to bend your brain a little bit. You may have to break your brain a little bit on this one. The idea here, is that you were going to keep people on payroll. That would make you eligible for forgiveness. Yeah. Now, why would you do that? It sounds counterintuitive. Knowing that this recession was going to be deep and fast, the thought was, how best can we get money in people's pockets so they can spend it at the grocery store or spend it in other places? And the PPP loan is using, in part, using the small business and lender mechanism to move those dollars into the pockets of workers. So it's not a matter of you have to be open and taking reservations and serving people in your hotel. It's a matter of a payroll definition and who was on payroll when you got the loan, who's on payroll on June 30th. Again, that's counterintuitive, but no one expected hotels and restaurants to be back and open and full. And by June 30th, we just didn't know. And I think it's clear that we still aren't going to know with sadly the death estimates in the nation now probably over 100,000 by the middle of August. So we know this pandemic still is going to be alive on June 30th in some form. So that might give you a little comfort. It ought to give you a little, but little. So here's what I've talked to the State Bankers Association about this, and I would suggest you as well with your own banker, save all those emails that you got in early March from the SBA or from Treasury that said, we're doing it this way. Because come June 30th, I need to hear from you that you have those emails that said they're going to do it this way, so that we can start to hold the agencies accountable for what I call reconciling your loan into a grant. That's the first thing. The second thing is a much shorter answer, is in the next CARES package, we're considering extending that deadline. So not make it a June 30th deadline, but maybe even to August 31st. But that's legislative, and I don't guarantee any legislation. That's what we're going to try to get. But a lot of people are hearing the same thing I'm hearing in my district. So I address it that way. Keep your paperwork. Make sure you know what folks told you, and it's documented, so that when June 30th rolls around, you've got it documented. Because the reconciliation, if we don't change the date, that reconciliation process is going to start. But my office, we're engaged on this issue. We're engaged on this issue to try to move the deadline. We're engaged on this issue to support your lenders and to support you as small businesses to be sure SBA and Treasury live up to that obligation as well. Yeah, you're welcome.
We've got a question from Deborah Hoskinson, who is the director of the Visitors Bureau. Deborah, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you too, Representative Larsen, for being with us, and Victoria for putting this all together. So on the topic of PPP, so this is perfect. I don't know if you're aware, but you know, they are so important to businesses and some nonprofits, but 501c6s don't, you know, aren't eligible right now. And that means destination marketing organizations like us and chambers of commerce, like our 3 chambers of commerce in the islands. And we're all going to be really leading the economic stimulus here in our small towns and communities with tourism and small business and getting word out. We've had to cut our staff hours, and I know Roger Dow with US Travel has really been lobbying hard at your level for this. So I'm just wondering what you know, and I'm hoping you will support that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. I was surprised 501c6s came up today. I'm kidding. I knew I knew it was going to come up because we can't change it until we get a chance to change the law, and we won't have that opportunity until we get back into session. We weren't able to do it with the CARES 1.5, which was a couple weeks ago. That was just a matter of just trying to put more money into the existing program. It's on the list of things we're trying to get into the CARES 2.0 package, which I don't have any guarantee on when I'm going to be back in session. It could be next week, the 11th, the week of the 11th, it could be the week after that. But the 501c6 issue, thank you for raising it here. It actually, as well, has been raised in a lot of districts in the country, I know. And I know the Speaker of the House as well knows that this is an issue. And the Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee that does the tax writing, he's well aware of it as well. And we'll pass it on again. I'm on a call later today with the Majority Whip, and I'll be sure to text his staff that this is an issue that we continue to hear about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, Victoria, were you handing it off to me? Because you're still muted, just so you know.
Just take it, Lance.
So again, thank you, Victoria and Congressman, for being here. This is a small follow-up to the EIDL SBA loans. Did I correctly sense a frustration on your part that that has kind of come to a screeching halt at the moment?
Yeah. It's. I'm sorry, I wasn't accurate. It should have come across as a very large frustration, not a small frustration.
Okay. Yeah, because that portal obviously is not accepting new applications, and you sense that people are aware that issue might.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me tell you what. Do you have a question? I can.
Sorry, I just that was clarification on that particular one.
Yeah. So when we did the first COVID package in March, we added COVID-19 to the list of disasters that were eligible for disaster loans. So we have this system in place for hurricanes and tornadoes and wildfires, and go down the list. Earthquakes, go down the list. We added COVID-19, but COVID-19 is a national emergency. It's not a geographic specific emergency. So as a result, the EIDL loan process just broke down because it got SBA got applications through this portal from 50 states plus territories instead of just tornado rack states or wildfire rack states or so on. So that was in part the problem. But where they are now is if you're in the system, if you've applied and you have a registration number. I passed this on to Victoria earlier. If you apply for EIDL loans, an EIDL loan, and you have a registration number that starts with a 3, you're in the system. They don't need to hear from you again. I have a neighbor who in my condo, and he has a 3 to start his registration number, and he's asking me every day if he needs to do anything, and every day I literally tell him, no, you do not need to do anything. And he got an email this weekend that said, you do not need to do anything. So I'm glad I was right. They are processing all those that are in the system. That is, the SBA is processing all those that are in the system. It's just taking way too long for that to happen. in addition to that, Lance and others, the SBA has stopped taking new idle loan applications except for agriculture. Except for agriculture. So the portal is open if you qualify as an agricultural business. And I'm frustrated about that as well. Not because I don't love agriculture. I eat agricultural products all the time. I'm frustrated because there are a lot of non-agricultural businesses that still want to get into the idle loan system. And so I expressed that frustration to the SBA yesterday on our call. We have a weekly call with Region 10 people. It's an administrative region for the government, and expressed my frustration. But that's where it is. We'll raise that frustration higher. But it is important to note that if you have a registration number for your idle loan that is starts with a 3, you're in the system. They will get to you. You do not need to take any more action. If you feel frustrated, you can call our office and we'll talk to you. But a 3 means you're in. And in fact, my neighbor got his economic injury grant, advance grant as well. So he knows he's in the system and so on. So that's how to think about it. If they have a 3, they're in. They got to wait. Otherwise, they're taking only ag businesses right now through the SBA portal for idle loans.
Thank you. Okay, Ana Maria de Freitas has a question as well, so I'm going to unmute you.
Yes, thank you, Congressman Larsen. I think you answered my question regarding, it was about the EIDL, and it sounds like I'm in the same boat that your neighbor, so I think I just need to wait patiently. And I did get one of those weird emails over the weekend, so.
Oh, okay, good. Further proof.
Yes, so thank you. I just, I was just, chatting with Laura that we're all trying to financially plan going forward. And there's just so many what ifs regarding like how the PPP is going to be addressed and what money is going to be coming in for the EIDL and when can we open and in what capacity. So we want to make sure we can stretch our precious dollars, to next season when things start looking more normal. And it's hard to plan in this great unknown.
Yeah, and I really feel for you as well. I tell people now is my economic certainty level is still between 0 and 100. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks it'll be somewhere 5 and 95, so it begins to narrow, but still too wide of a band to have a lot of certainty. And I think after tomorrow's unemployment numbers come out, could it get worse? Probably, but from an economic claims perspective, it probably is going to be. It's going to be pretty bad tomorrow. I mean, the unemployment claims, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it might be closer to the bottom from what I'm reading from economists and forecasters and so on. But it's a matter then of how long we trundle along on the bottom before it starts to turn up again. And that's probably the next set of questions from a broader macroeconomic perspective, which has an impact on eventually on all of you and many other people I represent as well. But we'll keep watching that as well. I'm trying to do all I can to bring certainty sooner rather than later.
And we appreciate that. And we appreciate your being with us this morning. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your service too on the town council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Mary Parolaz. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And it's a county question, so I'm maybe you could wing it, but
sure. Happens all the time.
Good morning. Thanks for doing this. My name is Mary. I own a souvenir shop here in Friday Harbor. And so I've been listening to some of the council meetings and Dr. James, and one thing, and maybe I missed it, but one thing that I'm hearing is, a lot of discussion about these phases and the steps, and it sounded like there was some members that wanted to open up new construction, but not, other items on that list. But the other side of that is this order Dr. James put in place through the end of the month that restricts anyone coming into the port or staying in a hotel, transient lodging, that sort of thing. And so I'm curious as to that order holds through the end of the month, which basically keeps the tourists away, which, does that get extended? I sort of got the impression from Dr. James that he's like, we have a moat around the island. We need to keep us safe. That, he didn't feel comfortable opening us up to tourism until the testing supplies or capacity increased and contact tracing and all that. So I'm just wondering who votes on that. Is that specifically his decision, or is that a council decision at large if that order gets revised, and perhaps when that might happen?
Yeah, rather than address the San Juan County Council charter specifically, just generally the elected representatives in the county, whether it's San Juan or Snohomish County where I live, or Skagit or Whatcom or Island, the elected county commission or council has that authority, at least, except for in Snohomish, where the health district is actually a separate entity, but it's made up of local electeds who are not elected but are appointed by their elected board. Where the county council or commission is directly elected, they have county health departments. And Dr. James, I think, right, he's the head of the county health department, so he reports to the county council. I would note, just like Jay, Governor Inslee is taking direction and advice from John Weisman, who's the head of the State Department of Health. It is advisable for the non-health professionals to take advice from the top health official in the county as well. Now they can take that advice and say thank you and do something else, or they could take that advice and do exactly what they're asking. It's going to really be up to them to do that. But again, I just think that it's probably from a county like San Juan County, it's probably advisable to begin thinking about, could you reopen sooner? But like Snohomish County, you would never have that conversation.
Right.
You wouldn't even start that conversation. Or even Skagit or Whatcom, you just wouldn't start that. It's I just think it's
situation here for sure.
Yeah, right, yeah. But San Juan County, you could think that the issue with San Juan County though too is it gets back to Laura's question, or someone else's question about all the second homes, and the ability for people to get there either by boat or by plane, not just using the state ferry. You have a lot more. You have a lot more travel to your county than Ferry County in Eastern Washington, which I think is on the list of the 10, right? Not a lot of second homes in Ferry County. So you have a different circumstance you have to sort through, and it's going to be as long as it stays a conversation, I think y'all will be in good shape, better shape. If it gets to be a battle or a tussle, no one's winning from that. Small businesses won't win. The county won't win. It just won't work. It's going to have to be a continued conversation. And again, I think for San Juan County, it's advisable to begin having that. They may have it and say, no, we're not ready yet. But it is a unique county relative to a lot of other ones in the state.
And one thing I would love to see, even though I think it's probably a fairy tale, is if we do stay, shut to tourists for an extended length of time based on, the health order or whatever you want to call it, while the rest of Washington state opens up, it would be awesome to look at perhaps with the EIDL grants instead of loans for our county, just because it's such a unique situation. Wanted to mention that. Yeah.
I'm not one to make predictions. I will say that it doesn't seem to me that like a Snohomish County would open and San Juan County wouldn't. That doesn't to me just doesn't fit my intuition.
Okay.
So I don't see that happening. It's possible that Pacific County opens and San Juan County doesn't, or Asotin, but probably not your neighboring counties.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a question from Rick Hoffman from the Port of Lopez.
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yep,
I can hear you.
Great.
I can only see half of you though, Rick. There you
go. We're going to move over.
Hey, nice guitars.
Thank you for the CARES grant for the airport. It is much appreciated. And just a question, have you heard how soon those are going to roll out? We did the form, sent it into the FAA, and we're eager to get the money spent on our, local businesses. So just wondering if you'd heard how quick that'd come out.
No, I don't. Thanks for bringing that up. Jenn Rogers from my team is on the line, and we'll put that in a queue to ask the FAA folks when they plan to get that done. But you all have filled out all your paperwork, and it's sent off.
Yeah, and it couldn't have been easier. I mean, we got basically a pre-filled out form from the FAA and signed it and sent it back in. So that part of it was very very non-government like. So it was wonderful.
Well, I was saying it is government. Filling out the paperwork and sending more paperwork to the government, that's the easy part. The harder part is actually getting the money out of the government. So we'll work on that for you.
All right, we appreciate it. We just,
yeah,
like I say, we're going to try and approve some projects at our board meeting next week, and like to know how soon we can spend the money.
Yeah, Port Lopez got 30,000 or so, right? 30 for the airport, and then Orcas and Lopez each got about $1 million or so each.
Yeah, Orcas and Friday Harbor both got a little over $1 million, so I'm sure they're more anxious than we are even.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Great.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Travis Ayers, you had a comment. I don't know if you've got a question, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute you just in case. Travis, are you there?
I am. I just wanted to give people one data point about my experience of getting the EIDL loan and the time frame that was involved there.
Yeah, great. What is it?
So I put it in the chat box. The application went in on March 30th, and the grant portion came into my bank account on April 21st. Looks like Laura's adding her experience there below as well. So that's all for me. Thanks, Congressman Larsen.
Yeah, Travis, how much was your grant portion?
That was 10,000.
So you got a full 10,000?
Yeah, we have 19 employees, so we got up to the cap.
Yeah, great. But you haven't heard since about the rest of the loan?
I have not. I spent a long hold got it to a representative, and all she could tell me was that my application was in process. She couldn't tell me the amount of the EIDL loan or any kind of time frame.
Yeah. All right. Yeah,
Thank you.
That's accurate. That's what I'm hearing. Thanks, Travis.
Thanks. We've got Becky Day, the San Juan Island Chamber Director, with a question. Becky, I'm unmuting you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Congressman Larsen, for talking with us today. All of the phase 1 businesses were excited to roll out yesterday. And then late yesterday afternoon, the governor announced that they don't have all the protocols in place yet for what the businesses are supposed to do. And then it was on the news this morning as well that they can't really go into phase 1 until these guidelines are in place. And I was just wondering what we're supposed to tell our businesses.
Call the governor.
Okay.
Call the governor.
Okay.
Becky, I do know that the county council is currently having that conversation about what the protocols will be, about which specific types of businesses will be opened up with each phase.
No, it was the retail, because they're not, it was the retail one.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
On the retail side, yeah, I understand it's curbside pickup only.
Yes.
But what is retail? I mean, is grocery retail, but it obviously isn't because people can go to the grocery store, but it's still generally a retail business. You go into a store and shop. But and I say call the governor, you should, and we'll also make a note of it and talk to the governor as a liaison for the members of Congress whose job is to get yelled at by us. So we'll call him.
Right. So, because I mean, it seemed like, yes, all the stores could start their retail or their curbside pickup yesterday, and then it's like, no, wait, you can't. And it's like, now we go back and tell them that.
I know it's very difficult because it is heartening to hear people, and I'm not surprised. People want to do it right and they want to do the right thing. It'd be really easy to say who's going to catch me on San Juan Island, or who's going to catch me in Yakima County and Prosser, or whatever. But it is hard to hear people want to do the right thing, and that means that the elected officials, the government, has to tell you the right thing, so you can do the right thing. That responsibility sits on us. We'll pass it on to Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like there's no further questions unless somebody has a question. It looks like that's kind of it in the chat box. Congressman Larsen, do you have any additional things to say?
Well, I'm a little frustrated because for two reasons. One, we won't be going. I presume we won't be going to East Sound for the East Sound Parade, which we like to do every year. Sorry, Lopez. Sorry, San Juan. But so a little, that's sad. And then we had been doing an annual event for my campaign side at Rosario every year, and we've had to cancel that as well, but we've rescheduled already for next year. Got a really good date for next year, in fact, next August at 2021. So, if that's just my two experiences, and just really, I know you can multiply those by 1 billion or 1 million or some large number, and I get a real feel for the impact it's having on all of you. I do hope that I'm able to get up to the islands at some point this summer anyway. And my guess is that I will be able to do that without violating any rules. And if I get up there, we'll let Victoria know and some other folks know. So maybe we can, I'll stop by and go shopping 6 feet away from everybody or something like that. I look forward to getting up there, though. And I know a lot of people look forward to getting back up there.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you, Congressman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming today to talk with us. And thank you, everybody who came today to this meeting. Join us every Wednesday at the same time. And if you need anything for your business at all, let us know, because we can help you with a lot of different things. So let us know. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again, Congressman Larsen. And thank you, Jen, for setting up the call from Congressman Larsen's staff. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.